so good to be here. Just got a really lovely comment on one of my other lives, and that's the whole reason why I do what I do, why I meet you guys here, is because I care. I have been through the ringer with relationships, as most of you know, and many of you have too, and that is why you watch these videos. This is why you're searching, this is why you're seeking, this is why you're looking to have a better experience, because you're tired, you're exhausted, you're confused, you might be sad, you might be angry, you might be frustrated, you might be resentful. You know, all of these things build up inside of us when we're dealing with a narcissistic type relationship. And whether you have had a narcissistic relationship in the past, hello, whoever just joined me, or you are currently in one, then this conversation is for you. I literally have just left the gym. I was listening to some inspiring thing on YouTube, and I was like, just kind of pondering in my head, because this is how I come up with these topics. I'm like, what could someone really benefit from hearing today? And keep in mind also, you guys, that many times us as teachers in the world, we're teaching what we're learning. In fact, you learn that right away, because once you've had you've made some headway in a certain area and you start to feel really good and you're like, wow, something's changing in my life, then you realize what's happening, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to share this with other people, which is my exact path. If you guys that have just joined, if you would give me a little comment and let me know where you're from or what your name is, I would love to touch base with you. So that would be awesome. So I was thinking today, and thank you for the love there, guys. So I was thinking today, what is it that people really need to hear? And I don't, a lot of times we're talking about what narcissists are, what they're doing, how to do the gray rock method and these type of things with them. And all those things are incredibly serving. And I invite you to take in as much knowledge as you can, because knowledge is power. But also I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this. I wanted to go into what the true spiritual meaning is of this, and what you are actually being called to do in these relationships, because there's something here for you. And until we get that, then we're just going to keep repeating the pattern. So I'm going to tell you a little story that after, I'm not sure if a lot of you on here know my story, but my story is my second husband was narcissistic. He was a heavy drinker. He was physically abusive at times. He ended up cheating, and then he abandoned the family, including his own biological daughter that we had together for 7 years. And this was after, he was an international pilot, so he was gone all the time. He was gone 5 to 6 weeks at a time, and I was working full time as a hairstylist. I had two early teenagers, and then I had this toddler, and I was just exhausted. I was basically back to single parenting again, even being married. And so I had supported him in coming up through the ranks of his career, and then he finally landed this amazing gig that made better money. So he said, well, why don't you stay home? And I was like, okay, that would be great, because of course he didn't want to help with any of the things that were going on. So his answer was, well, you just don't need to work. But at the time, that sounded like a really fabulous idea to me. I was like, yeah, I'm down, because I was freaking exhausted, and plus the money was there, and I just was kind of going with the flow of life. I'm like, this is okay. And I had always had a feeling that I wanted to be, good morning, why do narcs slam doors? They chatter in hallways instead of just getting into their units. I don't think I can answer that comment. I'm not really sure why they do that. That's interesting. So you're talking about the hallways. I'm thinking of your apartment or something. And yeah, I don't know. Slam their doors. Yeah, I don't know, because each individual is different, and I'm not really sure. I can't answer that one. And I think that was Hummingbird. Am I right? Okay. So what happened is that after, so I retired from doing hair, and yes, it is. Oh, probably yes, to get attention. That's their whole gig, is they want attention. They want attention because they feel so poorly about themselves, and the only way that they can feel good about themselves is if they get attention. It's always got to be about me, 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 me. So I think you nailed it, and thank you for that. Thank you, Hummingbird. I said to this person last time I was going to call them that because that's what their title means. So, and I'm a nicknamer, okay, but in a good way. I mean, so if I call you something weird, don't freak out, because my son's nickname was Mayonnaise at one point. Okay, because I used to call him my little man, then that went to Manny, and then it went to Mayonnaise, and so that's not his nickname anymore, but that's just Kristen Brown. So anyway, if I nickname you, that's a good thing. So anyway, what happened was that I had this 19-year hair clientele. I was really great at what I did. I had been doing hair since I was in 6th grade. It was literally like a gift. It was just so easy for me, and I love people, as you know, and I just jived, and I had this amazing clientele, and I was freaking exhausted with all this stuff. So I decided it was a good idea to retire. So I retired. And I mean retire. I'm using that word because I thought I was done forever. And I farmed out all my clients to everybody, and it was so much tears and crying, and we're going to miss you, and oh my God, and if you ever do hair again, and blah, 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 all these things. So I was not long into this, and this is a very complicated story, so I'm with a lot of weird timeline things, so I'm not going to get into all of that just to save some time. But what ended up happening is that I retired, and then not soon thereafter he left. He literally abandoned the family. So if you know anything about doing hair or a client building business, it is not something that you can just go back and start again. It's not like I had a salary and I could say, okay, this is my skill. I can just go find another job somewhere else, and I can, start back up where I was. It doesn't work that way. And doing hair for 20 years, almost 20 years, that was the only thing that I had done. So starting back over again meant literally, you guys, sitting in the salon for 8 hours a day, hoping for a walk-in, and then hoping that person stays with me and books again in another 6 weeks. So you can see that this takes a lot of time. And not only that, this was during that big economic downturn in America where the real estate market crashed and all that stuff happened. Remember that? So a lot of my clientele at that time too had started to go really far in between their hair, and a lot of people started doing home hair color, and all of these things were happening. Thanks for the love, you guys. I really appreciate that. And so basically I was stuck. I could not go to like Starbucks and get a 9 to 5 job and even pay for daycare. And at the time we were living in this bigger house because I had sold my house and put my money from that house down on this house to buy that house, and it was quite a big sum of money. So, but the economy dropped, and we ended up only getting $6,000 back from that house instead of the big chunk of equity that I put into the house. Anyway, I was effed. Here I had 3 kids. My most biggest priority of my life was my children, and still is to this day. Just had dinner with them last night, and what a joy and honor it is that my grown kids, because my youngest one couldn't come, called me like, can we go to dinner, Mom? And there I'm sitting at dinner with these 3 gorgeous 20-somethings, because I call my future son-in-law my child too. And I'm just like so in awe. But anyway, I'm going off. That's just me sharing my heart with you guys. So what happened was that I was basically, I was fucked, okay? I was like, what am I going to do? I can't even begin to make these bills. So I was in the most panicky, most absolute scared place I've ever been in my life. I literally was looking at being homeless. And gratefully for the love of my mother and my stepfather, who had a bigger home, they invited us to come in and live with them, and we ended up moving in there, and we stayed there for 5 years as I rebuilt my life. But I also didn't have to just rebuild my life, I had to rebuild my interior, because I had not only dealt with him, I call him my tsunami ex, because I call that whole era of my time, and you guys, if you're following me for some time, you'll know I talk about my tsunami ex. I talk about it in my upcoming book, The Recovering People Pleaser. And what I call that my tsunami, because everything that I knew and that made me feel safe in my world was like, whew, it was wiped out. It was gone. I didn't have a home anymore. I mean, I couldn't afford that house. Didn't have a home anymore. I didn't have an income. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a business owner. Like, I had no identity. And it was the weirdest thing. And for people who know me, or like, because I've mentioned this before when I talk on, live and whatnot, that, I call myself a scrapper. What I mean by that is I was raised with 4 boys and a neighborhood full of boys, hardly had any girls. And so I learned to hold my own. I'm a tough cookie. A lot of people say, you're so strong, those type of things. And here I was, you guys, like facing homeless. And I had worked since I was 15. And I had an 841 credit rating. And I never missed a bill. And I was about to be homeless. It was absolutely the worst thing that had happened to me. So anyway, this husband leaves, and about 21 days into him being gone, and this is the God's honest truth, because it was so ugly and so hard for so long, that when he called me on the road and said, hey, I'm moving out when I get home, I literally said to him, I said, if that's what you really want to do, because I knew in that moment that this was okay, because God was doing for me, universe was doing for me what I was unwilling to do for myself, because I had to own the fact that I stayed. I stayed in all this dysfunction. I stayed in all this pain. Okay, now the cheating part I couldn't prove. Like, he had met that person on the road, and I couldn't prove because, he's in another continent, and, there's no GPS or whatever. But I knew it. I knew it in here. I could feel it. And so, and you guys, I didn't know the term narcissism back then. I honestly thought this was a drinking problem. And when he left, I went to Al-Anon for 6 months, which is, families and friends of addicts, because I was like, what? I had no idea what was going on. So when I tell you guys, excuse me with these things, I have now come to be that person that wears my glasses on my neck because I can never find them, and there I am, okay? So, so I went to Al-Anon for 6 months because I didn't know what was happening. And I'm getting to a really important point here, you guys, so please hang with me. I didn't know what was happening. I remember sitting there, and again, you guys remember I had a huge fear of public speaking, so I didn't even speak up in that class. I just listened to these people because he drank a lot, so I thought that was the problem. That wasn't the problem. Anyway, as this is going forward, and I'm now at my parents' house with my kids, let me back up. So he's gone, and it's about day 21, and I wake up. Well, let me back up. I had to mourn the dream. I wasn't mourning him. And I think that's important to say, whether you're in that space or not in that space, it wasn't him because it was so toxic, all right? But I had to mourn the dream because there was plans, and I had helped him build up his career. We had a child together, and we bought this gorgeous home that, I really, really loved. It just, one of those homes that just fits you. You like the way everything is. And the neighborhood it was in and everything, like I felt safe when he was gone. There was just a lot of things. So my entire world got like blown up, literally, or washed away like a tsunami. So, but day 21, I woke up. And the reason why I know it's day 21, because wasn't keeping track of things, is because I did the math. So I think it was like August 8th that he left, and it was 21 days later, or that he Skyped me on the road. Anyway, day 21, I woke up and I remember feeling myself. I was like, wow, because I'm a joyful person. I love being happy. I love being happy. That's my default. It's fun, it's joy, it's love, it's hugs, it's happiness, it's laughter. That's my default. And so I felt that. I literally woke up that day and I was like, wow, I'm back. And at the time, nearby my house was it's kind of a bar, restaurant, club. I don't really know what to explain it. And a friend of mine from high school's band played there every Wednesday night, and I think sometimes every Saturday night. So when my kids were with their dad or whatever, and maybe my mom would watch my little one, I would go and hang out with my high school friends at this club. And I wasn't looking for a guy, wasn't anything, and then I met this other guy. And he, I, again, met this guy, and we just chatted, danced a little bit. That was the end. I'm like, hey, it was nice to meet you. I'm out of here. It was like 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. and I left, and then he texted me. He's like, let's get together. And he starts telling me his schedule and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, no, just not interested. Anyway, he pushed and pushed. This story, too, is in my book, and there's a reason for it. So he pushed and pushed, and I ended up dating this guy. Long story short, I ended up really liking this guy. I mean, he was just so great, and we had so much fun together, and it was relaxing, and he was so different from my tsunami ex, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there were signs there that I didn't see, but I'll get to that. So I started dating him, and then somewhere along the way, he starts pulling back, all right? And in his pulling back, I'm like, what's happening here? Because the guy told me he loved me like 6 weeks in. And, you're the best ever. And oh my God. And all the stuff that they do. I can't believe there's someone like someone like you out here and all these things. And he, at the time, had told me he'd been divorced for 3 years. And I was like, okay, cool. All these things. And I was like, wow, like this must be my prize. I literally thought he was my prize. Which, by the way, when I met my tsunami ex, I thought he was my prize at first. Okay. So I'm like, this is great. Well, at some point he pulls me aside. He's like, calls me up. He's like, hey, let's go have lunch. I need to talk to you about something. And as we're sitting there in the restaurant, he drops this bomb on me that he's still married. And I'm like, I literally, you guys, flew out of the booth and started laughing. I was like, haha. I'm like, you gotta be effing kidding me. I'm like, of course you're still married, because this is the way my life was going, right? That is quite literally the words that I said to him. Pats the booth, says, come back in here. He seems all sad and all this. And he's like, I've not been with anybody for 3 years. We haven't lived together for 3 years. And I believed him, and I explained why in the book. But he's like, I just wanted to tell you because I didn't feel like, we were on the, on the up and up and this and that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I just didn't think anything of it because I was technically still married too. I was going through a divorce, and he hadn't been with her for 3 years and all these things. Wasn't living at their house anymore and blah. So, people pleaser, accommodator, giver, understanding all the things. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. And didn't do it like that. But you get what I'm saying. That was the kind of the energy involved in it. Long story short, he ends up pulling away too. And that really devastated me. So it took 2 back-to-back betrayals for me to come to this conclusion that I want to share with you guys, which is the purpose for this live today. And that is that the tsunami X situation and then this situation that was overlapping, like I said, you guys, I met him 21 days into my tsunami X. I was still at the house. I was still going through, planning on court stuff and hiring lawyers and trying to figure things out. So there was having to sell the house, dealing with the kids and my daughter who'd now been abandoned. I mean, there was a lot happening in this time for me. So long story short, we move forward. Now I'm in my home with my parents, and this happens, and I'm just like, I am really at bottom now. I am a nervous wreck. I don't know what's happening. I'm like, it's very difficult to explain. But during that time, I remember one time I said to God, why is this happening? What is happening here? Why? First boyfriend cheated on me. Second one cheated on me and was physically abusive. First husband did his shenanigans. Second husband did his shenanigans. Now this. And then there was dating people in between with their whole things. Why? Why? And I was open. So it wasn't that I just asked the question. I answered to ask the question because I wanted to know. And this voice inside my head said, how do these people treat you? And I come to know that voice is God. At the time, I just thought it was a thought. But in after hindsight of all this, I was like, I was being led through all of this. How do these people treat you? And I'm like, well, I was disrespected. I was dishonored. I was abused. I was not protected. I was, blah, 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 blah. I listed off all the things. And then the voice said to me, how have you treated yourself that way? And I said, I didn't question it. I didn't feel ashamed. I didn't anything. I just said, I dishonored myself by this. I disrespected myself by this. I didn't protect myself by this. And I just listed off all the things. And I sat in the realization of this, that I was the common denominator in all these relationships. Now here's the irony. In one of my arguments with my tsunami ex, one of our arguments that we were having, at some point, because, they're narcissists, they're going to make you wrong. They're going to make it your fault. They're going to make, somehow you be the bad guy, even though you could be the most stellar human being, because we are people pleasers. And people pleasers fine tune and craft what it means to be a good person. All right? We know how to show up for people. We're in touch with our emotions. We're compassionate, we're giving, we're loving. So when I say to you, you guys, that I did not do anything outward, right? that was aggressive or a jealousy or anything. I had nothing weird that I was doing. I was just showing up in this loving way. He said to me, you're the common denominator, and you're going to have 2 divorces, and you're the common denominator. And I remember just going, whatever, just fluffing it off. So that day in my room, when I realized, I was sitting on the end of my bed when this whole thing happened, and I realized I am the common denominator. I am the common denominator in all these dysfunctional relationships. And then I realized something else, that my outer world was reflecting my inner world. That I was the person who was not respecting myself, who was not honoring myself, who was not protecting myself. And it went even deeper than that. And that's the moment that I vowed to remain single and celibate until I figured this out. And you're talking to a woman, you're listening to a woman. Let me take a sip. At some point, I need to get a brand deal with Starbucks. I'm just saying. That's my breakfast. At some point, now what was I going to say? This is what happens to me. Oh my God, now I lost my train of thought. Do you guys remember what was the last thing I said? Kristen, woo! It'll come back to me. Oh, I vowed to remain single and celibate until I figured this out, because I knew something was drastically wrong, because there was a pattern. And one of the ways, honestly, you guys, that we can heal, change, shift, grow, and evolve ourselves is by looking at our patterns, because we have patterns in life. Okay? That's how humans are. And my pattern was I continually attracted these type of people to me. And I also realized that it wasn't just my male-female romantic relationships. It was in my friendships as well. And I looked at this and I said, okay, here's the pattern. What do I do? How do I heal this? And I took it to God. I'm like, show me. Show me what to do. And one of the first things I needed to do was that I needed to calm my nervous system. But before I go there, I'm going to tell you this. What your narcissistic pattern/relationships are calling you to do is to heal yourself. Is to go within and to love yourself like it's your job. That's what it is calling you to do. It's calling you to heal your inner world to change your outer world. Because your outer world is always going to reflect what's going on inside of you. I've talked about this a lot. We are energetic beings. And whatever we are vibrating out is what we are going to attract back to us. And not only did I learn that lesson, I have practiced and played with energy so much since then that I can tell you this with 100% certainty. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a brain, physicist or whatever, all the things that Dr. Joe Dispenza does. I learned this stuff organically. And then when I happened upon the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, he was actually explaining why this happens in scientific, quantum scientific terms. So it made super sense to me. So here's what I did. I went within. First of all, I vowed to remain single and celibate. You're talking to a girl who had never been without a relationship except maybe from 20 to 21. Okay? Maybe in there I had 1 year that I didn't have a relationship, but from 15 on, and I was 42 when my tsunami happened. Okay? I had, or at least was dating somebody. But the only time I wasn't doing that was between that 1 year of 20 to 21. I remember that, okay? So it was one relationship after the other and one failed relationship after the other. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't like the word failure. I always say that I don't believe in failed anything. Because if we learn and grow from it, I just got an, oh, that was weird. The message just popped up again. Because if we grow from it, it's not a failure. Because that's what life is all about. It's quite literally about our healing. It's about our evolution. It's about us losing touch with that unconditional love that we came here with and returning back to that unconditional love. Because I will tell you guys this with 100% certainty. When you love yourself unconditionally And this is not about arrogance. This is not about anything. Think about someone you love like a pet. Do you guys have a pet you love? If you do, put your name of your pet in the chat here. That you just love that little baby, like so, or a child or a parent or somebody that you just love so much. That it's just unconditional. They can do no wrong. They can poop on the carpet. They can pee on the plant. They can do it. And you just love that thing no matter what. Okay? When you have that unconditional love for you, your entire experience of life is going to change. And I'm here to tell you that even though your pattern might be that you're attracting narcissistic, toxic, unhealthy, whatever word you guys want to use for these type of relationships, if that's your pattern, that is what you have attracted, that's just what is showing you in your world. Because I promise you that everybody else is attracting something different in their world that is very painful. Okay, whatever it might be. And that is their call to go within. The one thing that I learned on my healing journey for sure was that when I healed what was happening inside of me, when I learned to respect myself and protect myself and honor myself and accept myself and forgive myself and to make myself a priority. When I did that on the regular, here's what happened. First of all, I got really peaceful. You think that's not what's going to happen, right? Because and here's the other thing too, you guys. Remember I vowed to remain single and celibate. I was happy being single. And it's not like, oh, I love being single over being in a relationship. It was this flatline neutrality of peace. I was unattached to whether I had a romantic relationship or not. Because I was so at peace with me. I had given myself everything that I had hoarded myself out for in the world. I'm saying it like that because I'm like thinking, you know, where we accept the unacceptable. We do whatever we need to do to get this thing, right? And I'm not meaning literally, physically, sexually. That's not what I'm meaning by that, okay? Whoring for approval, have you guys heard about that? Anyway, so I started to give myself what I had been trying to get so desperately from my romantic partners. Love me, protect me, respect me, make me feel like I matter. Make me feel like I'm valuable. Give me attention. All those things I was out here searching for in my life. Over and over and over again. Innocently. And this is what's so important, you guys. It is so important that you understand how innocent you are in this process. We are only doing the best we can at any given moment, period. And a lot of times we want to look back and go, oh my God, how did I do that? Why did I stay so long? Why did I allow this? Why did I do that? I suck. This is terrible. All we're doing is we are stoking the fires of our shame and unworthiness that is keeping us in that pattern. Would you say to somebody else how much they suck like that? I can guarantee. If you guys would not say that to somebody else, please give me a thumbs up in chat. If you would never treat somebody as poorly as you have treated yourself, give me a thumbs up in chat. Getting texts. Because we are the overgivers. We are the accommodators. We are the people pleasers. We are the earth angels. We are the lovers. We are the nurturers. We are the fixers. We are the rescuers. But all of our energy is going out here. Thank you, Sierra. Thank you, love. I love your name, by the way. All of our energy is going out here. We got to pull that energy in. We got to pull that in. We got to pull that into number one. A lot of people are so afraid that if they do the work to heal, that they are going to become selfish. And I'm here to tell you that's not what happens. You become a cleaner, clearer, version of you. You become an empowered version of you. Life looks crystal clear. Your lens changes. Okay, the windshield wipers come on, the mud comes off. And you're like, what? And you're looking through your windshield of life with this incredibly different lens that you never had before. I'm saying it like this because I'm re-feeling what this feels like in this moment and the awe that comes with it. Yet, we don't know that's possible because we're still in this. We think this is as good as it gets. We think it's the luck of the draw. I literally, you guys, thought if I just kept pulling from the deck, eventually I'd pull a king. It's just a numbers game. I had no idea that it had everything to do with the way I was treating me. And I gave myself grace for it because I'm a spiritual person. I'm not religious. There's no religion I subscribe to, but spirituality, God, source, love, universe, forgiveness, compassion, acceptance. And this is why self-love is the miracle cure. You'll hear me talk about it all the time. Because you know what I did in those 2 years, you guys? I didn't know it was going to be 2 years. And it does not have to be 2 years for you. Remember, I was the pioneer. I was out there with my machete going like this through the jungle. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a teacher. I didn't know there was any books on this. I didn't know what was happening. So I did it myself. And I just read things, and anything that inspired me, I highlighted the shit out of it. That makes sense. I used to read books, like self-help books, through the lens of all the people that I needed to fix. Oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. Oh, yep, that's so-and-so. Oh, that's so-and-so. That's the stuff that I would read, right? I was looking up how to tell if someone's an alcoholic because I didn't know that I had lost my personal power. And like I say, I'm a highly functional person in the world, and I bet you are too. You have a job, you make money, you have a car, you whatever, all the things. You're taking care of yourself. You got pets, you got loved ones, you got this, and yet you're not attracting people that treat you like the rock star that you are. We're God's rock stars, you guys. We're his babies. He loves us unconditionally. I had no idea what I was doing. But what I did was this. I calmed my nervous system. I meditated like a mofo. Because remember, at this time, I'm still building my clientele. I built a salon in my mom's home. Clients were starting to factor back to me. I still had a little daughter that wasn't in daycare or anything. My mom had cancer for 10 years. My dad later got cancer. I mean, there was a lot happening in my world, okay? But my point is that I did my work, and then I did my work, okay? I meditated every day. And the whole thing about meditation, I need to do a live on this, or maybe I'll just do a video on it. Meditation is people make it so much harder than it has to be. And I need to talk to you guys about that at some point, because meditation is like, it's part of the miracle cure, because it is self-care, which is one of the tenets of self-love. But what we're doing is we're creating space in our brain, because those of you who are here understand that, especially if you're dealing with a narcissist, it's a cluster up here. That's what I thought my brain looked like. It was like, I don't know what it looked. It was like a mess. And I was shaky and I was nervous every day. And I lost so much weight, and it was just a disaster. And I finally said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. The number one thing I want to do is I'm going to calm my nervous system. And I started meditating every day. And I've always exercised, so I'd go to the gym. People say running because it sounds cooler. I'm a jogger, you guys, like it's a shuffle. But I started running. I hiked all the time. I went on walks, and I spent a lot of time alone. And this is one of the things that people fight so much. And in my book, From Doormat to Sweet Empowerment, my first book, I have a subtitle or subchapter in there that's called Aloneness is like recreation, but recreation time. Aloneness is recreation time. Because that is what I learned. That book is like literally I wrote it right after my healing journey. I was like, which I'm continuing on the healing journey, which I later learned. I can talk about that later. But what it is that I was like, what the bleep happened? Oh my God, like how I was feeling was ridiculous. I had to write about it. Like I gotta share this with people. But the aloneness piece of this is something that people fight. Now, if you're in a relationship already, I'm not telling you to go break up, do anything. I'm just saying, if you are single right now, I invite you to embrace this singledom. This is time for you. They say date you, which I never really liked that terminology, and I'm kind of weird about words and I invite you to change any words that I use too, because you need to be your own authority. That's part of reclaiming your personal power. I didn't like date yourself, which I heard after the fact, but I was like, date yourself. Like that to me, it sounds like going on a date. Like literally take yourself to a movie, which is great. I don't think anything's wrong with that. But what I want to see you do is to treat yourself like the most valuable person in the world. I remember the day that I apologized to little Kristen. This always tears me up. On the end of my bed, sitting there when I realized that I was the common denominator in all this, and that the way I was treating me was attracting the way people were treating me. I looked at this little girl who had been hurt through life, and you know, we all have our programming. We're the walking wounded, who just wanted to be loved, who just wanted somebody to protect her, and was willing to do anything to get that. And I pulled her close to me in my mind's eye, and I said, I am so sorry that adult me treated you this way. I got your back now, and I owned everything to my little Kristen, and I have kept that all these years. Anytime somebody is treating me crappy, I literally think, I got you, little Kristen, not on my watch, not on my watch. You will never be, no one will be allowed to treat you that way. That was me protecting and respecting myself. This is part of self-love. So when I told myself I was sorry, and I actually invite my clients all the time to write apology letters to self, but they always need to end with, I love you, and I got your back, okay? This is not about beating yourself up. This is about a testimonial to the inner child within you that needs your love. Yes, we were victimized. We all were, you guys. We were victimized by people. That's true. And as grown adults, we have the power and capacity to heal it, to fix it. We're in charge now. We are no longer at the mercy of the elders in our youth, or the people that wronged us, betrayed us, hurt us, whatever, the people that we were powerless to in our youth. We're no longer at the mercy of them. That's where you're taking your power back, step one. I got you, little Kristen. I would like to hear you guys right now say to yourself inside your head, I got you, little, and your name. I got you, little hummingbird. I got you, little Sierra. There's only 2 people I've saw their names so far. I got you. And when you're done with this, I hope that when we're done with this live, I hope at some point during your day, because I don't know what you guys have going on, you're at work, you're here, you're at lunch, whatever, that you take a moment to sit with you in your mind's eye. And you hug yourself. And I mean literally hug yourself. And you tell yourself, never again. But you also give yourself grace on this journey because you're learning. I'm how many years into this now? 12 years, something like this into this now? And I'm still learning. And that was the piece that I wanted to share with you guys because I thought I got there. I thought I reached the destination. All good. And then other things happened in my life. And I realized that we are always works in progress, which is another reason to give yourself grace. You don't know what you don't know. I'm going to say that again. you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I'm okay knowing what I don't know still. I know there's so much more to know. It's about keeping that heart open. Keeping that heart open. Keeping that mind open for new information. Because when I started meditating, I calmed down the chatter in my head. Okay? There's a Chinese proverb that's in my first book. I always screw it up when I try to remember, but it's basically like, you can't add to a full rice bowl. It's something like that, you guys. I'm terrible at quoting things. So what that means is if the rice bowl is full, you can't bring in new information, new knowledge. You just can't. It's full. It's going to fall off. And this is why we need to meditate and clear our minds, create space in our minds so that we can bring in new knowledge. So that's, again, this is all in hindsight for me, you guys. I did not know this. I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing one step at a time. First step, calm my nervous system because I'm a wreck. But in calming my nervous system, and I was reading and studying literature, okay, nothing on narcissism, by the way, nothing on abuse, by the way, it's all spiritual literature. Return to Love by Marianne Williamson, Conversations with God, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I was reading books on mediumship. I mean, things like that. There was nothing to do with narcissism. There's nothing to do with that titled shame and unworthiness. Nothing. But I took in those spiritual concepts and they changed my life. Forgiveness. Forgiveness of self. I forgave myself for everything. And now I practice what A Course in Miracles calls quantum forgiveness. Quantum forgiveness means it happens immediate. Quantum forgiveness is how God forgives us. There's not even a forgiveness because there's not, like, people like to say, oh, God forgives you. And if you have a religion that says that, that's okay. You can believe what you want to believe. But what I know and understand is that there's no even need for forgiveness because God understands why we're here. He knows we don't know. It's like forgiving a baby for missing their mouth with the spoon when they're trying to first learn how to eat. Or not, starting to crawl, they can't stand up and run. That's like having to give a baby forgiveness for not knowing how to run. We came here to learn. We're going to make mistakes. And the cool thing, you guys, is these mistakes are opportunities to learn. So what I know now is that when I make a mistake, I go, what is this teaching me? When I drop the ball, when I do whatever it is I'm doing, I say, what am I supposed to be learning here? Because I've learned that that's the fastest way out of this hell that I'm in. Because we are here to learn lessons. So when we find the lesson, we can move forward. And every time we learn, you guys know, I know you've learned lessons in your life and you're like, didn't you feel like, wow, I got that. And you could kind of feel that little up-leveling every time you learned a lesson. Because when we learn the lesson, we don't repeat the same things. Yes, there might be new things coming up to us because, again, what we're being called to, what our narcissist relationships and anything else that we're struggling with, what we are being called to is return to the unconditional love of self. So I learned to forgive myself. I literally went through every single thing that I allowed. When my second boyfriend punched me in the face and I didn't leave, I allowed that. When he headbutt me and broke my nose, you guys can see my nose is crooked, that's from him. Forgiveness applies to myself. I forgive myself after encountering several narcs. Now I'm educating myself to navigate. Yes, I'm going to click that so I can finish that. Live chat. Okay, now I'm educating myself to navigate around them. You are so on track. You are so on track, Hummingbird. That's exactly right. And this is what I'm saying. I can feel your energy and I can tell. I'm an energy reader, you guys, and so I will often feel people. And what's funny is that I have a client intake form that I have people fill out when they come to me for mentoring. And the reason why I need that is because, yes, I read the answers and things like that. Of course, it gives me some information where we're going. But I actually, I connect with the person's energy when I get my client intakes forms. I connect with their energy and I start to bring in God's or spirit to help me guide them in the best way possible. So I do feel your energy, and I feel like, I'm even going to say this at some point, Hummingbird, you can probably teach this if you want to, because you are learning so much. And I appreciate you here, and I appreciate you sharing your stuff. And that's what'll happen, is that once we get over these, I'm such a curious cat. There's someone walking, I'm like, oh, who is that? Can't see him with my readers. Anyway, so the forgiveness piece, when you forgive yourself, you are taking a massive chunk of shame and unworthiness off you. A massive chunk. Like, it is like part of the iceberg fell into the water. Because we are holding ourselves hostage to the things that we're doing, to the feelings that we're not enough, to the feelings that we're, there's something wrong with us, right? Forgiveness. The next one is respect and protect. Well, it's grace and forgiveness is the first self-love tenet, okay? Giving ourselves grace on our journey. We're fallible. We're new. We're doing these things, figuring it out. We can drop the ball sometimes. We're going to put the carrots on our forehead sometimes. We're going to have to hold the table to walk sometimes. We're new. So we give ourselves grace. And then we give ourselves forgiveness. And the second self-love tenet is respect and protect. Vowing to little Kristen, I'm going to respect you. I'm going to protect you. No one is going to disrespect you. Okay? And this, at first, I will tell you this to really give yourself grace with this, because at first you're going to notice the really outward disrespects. Okay? The big ones. All right? You may still be putting up with an eye roll or a child, asking you 8,000 times, not respecting your answer. You might put up with those things, but you're going to start to address the really big ones first. Like, okay, that's not okay. But as you fine tune and you get more well versed in this, you're going to start to go, you know what? Because I was putting up with things that weren't like, they're not going to rock my world. They weren't narcissistic things, but little disrespectful things along the way from family and friends. I was still putting up with the little things, but as I started to really love myself and really fine tune this, I would call out those things too, the small ones. Like, no, that's not okay with me. Let's talk kindly to each other. Let's use a nice tone. Oh, you can't use a nice tone right now? Okay, well, not going to subject little Kristen to this. I don't say this to them. I'm saying it to you. I'm not going to subject little Kristen to this person going off on whatever. So I'm going to remove myself. So I say, okay, you can have that emotion, those feelings, that behavior, and I'm going to be over here until you figure that out. Indifference avoidance works for me in navigating around them. Yes, that is absolutely, that's one of the best things that we can do. And there's a lot on this. I mean, it depends who it is. It depends how often you see them. It depends how close you are to them. I mean, how bad they are. There's a lot. But man, if you can stay away, if you have that, capacity, because there's people that I don't even know, you're done. But there's other people that are in my life that might be doing some things that it's like, no, this is just me needing a boundary. So respect and protect, vowing to yourself that you're not going to allow that, which means I'm not even going to allow my child to raise their voice to little Kristen. I'm just picturing little me standing there, 5-year-old or something me, and let's say one of my children was upset. My kids don't really raise my voice to me anymore because we fixed that through my boundaries. But let's say that was happening. I'm like, no. I know you're upset that Sammy did this and so that, and now you're trying to make it about me, and you're whatever the story might be. No. I will listen to you. You can be upset, but you just don't get to bleed it onto me. You just can't make it about me, because little Kristen didn't do anything. So you don't get to treat her like that. Do you guys understand the energy that I'm trying to give to you? Do you see? I really hope it's inspiring you. I hope that you're like, yeah, okay. I know what that feels like, Yes, hummingbird. They live in their karma each day in their miserable existence. You know what? Someone recently, I think there's a lag when people are messaging. So if I don't see your messages right away, I think there's a lag. But I recently was asked for my Dear KB playlist to answer that, do narcs have karma? And I have an interesting answer to that. So I'm going to share that with you guys. But it's just my opinion. I'm curious to see what other people's would be. But at any rate, respect and protect. The next one is compassion and acceptance. Compassion. You know how much compassion you guys give to other people? You're recovering people pleasers. We are a compassionate lot. That's what we do. We care so much. We hold space for people. You see people on TikTok and they're like, you see an old person sitting alone and they're sobbing over in the corner, right? They're like, me watching an old person eat lunch, which by the way, that's compassion because they're assuming the old person is lonely. But I'm here to tell you that's not necessarily the truth. My dad would go do things like that alone, bring his book. He was in hog heaven. It's exactly what he wanted to do, be by himself and eat. It's what you call radical acceptance and just avoid them. Yeah. Yes. So the self-love tenet is compassion and acceptance of self. What we do is we accept who we are. Lock, stock, and barrel. Every tiny aspect of us. The fact that we need to, sleep 8 solid hours. The fact that, whatever the thing might be for you. I don't want to try to think of examples like that I am gluten-free. The fact that I don't watch things that regard torture. Okay, if we're watching a show and torture comes up, the TV's on mute, I close my eyes and the family has to watch it, right? I accept all of these quirks about myself. I accept all the quirks about my physical body. Okay, that's been a work in progress because I was really programmed to believe the physical body was our value. So I really had to, so I really had to do a lot of work on that, about really accepting my physical body exactly how it is. But compassion and acceptance of self, fully. And I don't want you guys to think right now, oh my God, this is such a big list. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? I will tell you something really magical. When you start to do it just a little bit, it's just going to roll into the other stuff. Because everything I'm listing for you is self-love. So when you start giving love to yourself, these other things kind of naturally and organically come in. So don't think like I got to sit down every day and write this down and make sure you can. If it makes it stick for you, by all means, do whatever you need to do. But you don't have to. Because I think I started with forgiveness of self. And then that just rolled into acceptance. Do you see what I'm saying? It just kind of all rolled together. But these are the tenets of self-love. Self meaning of you, love meaning of the highest energy in the universe. That's what love is. The highest energy in the universe, without question, period, end of story, no beginning, no end, infinite. That is what love is. So when we apply that to us, we cannot help but grow. We cannot help but heal. It's what's been missing all along. Because we've been judging ourselves and thinking there's something wrong with us and wallowing around in our unconscious shame and unworthiness that's been driving our train and making us over-accommodate, over-give, rescue, fix, do all the things that we do as people pleasers. Because that's what's driving the train. So when you pull all that unconsciousness forward, where am I judging myself? Where am I hard on myself? Where am I talking bad to myself? Where am I not respecting myself? Where am I not protecting myself? Where am I not being compassionate? When you pull all of this forward, you heal. That's where the miracle lies. And that's why I wanted to share this with you guys today. Because, well, let me just finish going through the self-love things. Compassion and acceptance, that's the third one. The next one is positive and supportive self-talk. We know a lot about this, you guys. We know a lot about this, a lot about affirmations and things like that. Affirmations are great, but they don't do a damn thing unless you apply a feeling, an elevated feeling to it. Same with mantras, okay? If you're just thinking, I am this, and you're not having, like, you're not literally embodying that you're that, it's not going to do any good. So this is what they talk about now that was missing in The Secret back in the day, is that I don't think people talked about having the elevated emotion with it. So when you are giving yourself a mantra or an affirmation, be sure that you attach an elevated emotion to it. Of gratitude of it is the best one to be in, or like, I love this about myself, whatever it might be, okay? Be sure that there's an elevated emotion attached to it, okay? Because that is how your brain will recognize it, because there's heart-brain coherence. Heart-brain coherence. Do you guys know that there's 40,000 neurons in the heart? Brain cells in the heart. So we combined a thought with elevated emotion, because our emotion's in our heart. That's called heart-brain coherence. That's what resonates out into the universe. I can't give you all the specific quantum details with this because it's not my language. But I do know it's a thing, and I've experienced that thing repeatedly. And I know when I'm not in heart-brain coherence because I don't get the results. So then I go, okay, this is how I need to clean this up. This is how I need to fix this. But positive self-talk. So affirmations are one thing, but positive self-talk is be mindful of what you're saying to yourself during the day. No one's going to like what I have to say. Nobody really wants me at that party. They don't like me. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm skinny. I'm flat-chested. I'm this. I'm that. I'm not smart. I'm never going to make it. You know, I came from the wrong side of the tracks. I have, the wrong upbringing, ancestral this, so-and-so that. Listen to yourselves. And when I first listened to myself, you guys, you know what I did? I was appalled. I was appalled because I was a bully. And I'm a bully buster. I hated bullying. If anybody bullied anybody ever, I was tiny. I'm not tall now. I'm 5'2". I was 5'2.5". I probably shrunk. Okay, I'm little. So thinking in grade school, I was really little. Man, I walked up to a girl one time, I was probably 4'8". And she was 5'7", bullying my best friend. Popped her. I grew up with boys. I was kind of that way back then. She was bullying. And she went, she was 5'7". She was like a foot taller than me. Put her hand on her hip and stormed off. Okay, bully buster. But here I am, bullying the crap out of myself. Ay caramba. I was appalled because I would never say the things to others what I was saying to me. So when I say positive and supportive self-talk, I mean you catch those bullying phrases and you turn them around. Because here's the thing. When we treat ourselves a certain way, okay, when we treat ourselves a certain way, all right, when we're unkind to self, when we are not respecting, protecting all things, when somebody else does it to us, there's not really a disconnect. Like, we kind of know it's wrong, but we're used to the feeling because we've been feeling it already. So we know it's wrong, we know it hurts, we know it, but there's not this place inside of us that really feels, thank you, Andrea, heart your message. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. There's a part of us that doesn't recognize that it's super duper wrong. And this is why we stay in these repeated patterns all the time over and over again, because we know it's wrong, but we don't really know it's wrong. Because our inner world is tainted. But what happens when you start to heal? What happens when you start to do the self-love tenets? When someone acts like that, it's a beacon. It's like a siren, like a tornado siren blaring through a small town. You know the minute, because your inner world is so clean and so loving. When unloving crosses your path, you're like, no. You immediately can tell. You know immediately what's happening. Like I said, I put up with abuse and all types of things over and over again. It felt wrong to me, but it didn't feel wrong to me. Who can relate to that? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can relate to that, or something, a heart or something. If you can relate to, it felt wrong, but yet it didn't feel wrong. Because also, if you were treated that way in your youth, it just feels normal. Because nobody taught us differently. Growing up in a family of 4 boys, a mom and a dad, you would think that I would have felt protected. In fact, people love to call me a princess. They're like, oh, you were the princess. I'm like, that is not how this went down. Thanks, hon. Thank you. I'm calling you Andrea, but I don't know if it's Andrea. So please forgive me. No, it wasn't. That's not how it went down. I was number 4 out of 5. First of all, my mom was tired at this stage. You know, she had 3 boys ahead of me, me and a boy after me. And no, they were not. Yeah, she was a very, very loving woman, but she didn't have a lot of rules. Okay, thank you for the heart. Thank you, hummingbird. She didn't, you know, I don't know. She just wasn't a very boundary person. But anyway, no, I was not the princess. It was the opposite, right? I had to sink or swim. I had to jump into those waters with those boys and kind of become a boy myself to survive. And I'm not saying that like they didn't beat me up all the time or stuff. I got into scuffles here and there, but not like that, but just saying, you know, I was not the princess. Okay, so not being protected, I had zero clue what feeling protected looked like. Zero. To this day, when somebody does something that's protective of me, I'm like, it's shocking to me. And at the age I am now, because I'm like, I have so not been protected. But when I started to protect me, I started to know what it felt like. Ah, this is what it feels like to be protected. Okay. And unfortunately for us, but I'm not going to go into the pity party and victimhood of this because that serves nobody. A lot of us have had these weird upbringings, and they're all so incredibly different. Okay, they're all unique, first of all. And you combine that with our own unique DNA. This is why nobody's experiences are the same. We can relate on things, but nobody's 2 experiences are the same. This is why I always say to everybody who coaches with me, I actually, it's in the foreword of the preface of my book where I address my readers. I say, you take the best of what I say and you leave the rest. You are your own authority. I'm not your authority. But I'm going to tell you what works for me. I'm going to tell you how I healed. I'm going to tell you my journey. And if that inspires you and you feel that little thing inside you that goes, that truth made sense to me, I invite you to pull that truth in, pull it in, rub it into your heart, hold it close and sacred to you, journal about it, sink it in, rewire that brain. Because once your brain is switched, you will start to respond from that. Okay? There's another thing that I do when it comes to learning. And that is, and I learned this from A Course in Miracles. And A Course in Miracles uses traditional Christian language, okay, which can be offensive to some people who have had religious abuse of some kind. I'm not putting down anybody's religion, okay? There's beautifully, beautiful love-based Christian religions, and there is fearful Christian religions. So when I use the term I'm about to use, please reframe it if you need to. But A Course in Miracles says, Holy Spirit, help me perceive this situation correctly. I mean correctly, capital C, through divine eyes. Take away all the fear and all the mud, okay? Because they say that the Holy Spirit is the great perception shifter. Think about this. The great perception shifter. We got a tool, bros? We got a tool that we can call upon when we're confused? Oh my God. So when I started using this, when I said, Holy Spirit, help me perceive things correctly, because I'm okay with that language. Sometimes it took about 5 days. And all of a sudden one day I'd be like, it just ding, I'd see a different angle to a situation. Okay? And I know it came from Spirit, because here's why. Because we repeat the same thoughts. Which book did you start reading? Was it Return to Love? I hope it was. Is that the book you started reading? We think something like 60,000 thoughts a day, and 90 to 95% of them are on repeat. The only things that aren't repeat are like maybe like, what do I, oh, God, love that too. Holy Spirit gives me the gift of wisdom, discernment, part of my daily prayers. Yes. Love that. That's so much power right there. So the thoughts that aren't on repeat are things like, where am I going? You know, maybe writing an email and constructing it for the first time, or where am I going to eat lunch today? Or like, those are the thoughts that aren't on repeat, but the rest of it is on repeat programming. So we have to call in, well, have to do anything. I invite you to call in another force, a tool. Oh, Course in Miracles. Yes, girl, changed my life. Changed my life. Call in another perception, because we can only see what we're seeing. Because number one, we have filters, number one. And number two, we're thinking the same thoughts. So when I want to heal, shift, grow, evolve, I'm like, Holy Spirit, help me see this thing correctly. Help me. What am I missing? So this used to take about 5 days. All right, it was about 5 days. And all of a sudden I'd get like a ding and I'd be like, because maybe it took that long for my brain to get quiet enough for the message to pop in. This is why meditation is important. Okay? And then it started to take 3 days. Then it started to take 2 days. And then it started to take 10 minutes. Where I would say, please, God, help me see this situation correctly. Or Holy Spirit, whoever you want. Tree, I don't care who you ask. The energy's there, that's all that matters. You can say, hey, rear view mirror, help me to see the situation correctly. If the energy of the true want and desire to see the situation correctly, it's going to come, because the universe responds to your energy, not your words. I experienced some weird stuff from these narcs. I think they are practicing the dark side of witchcraft. They love to control. Oh boy, are these your neighbors? Okay. But then it started happening really fast for me, where I just had this shift in perception. And then here's where free will comes in, you guys. We get to choose to act from this place or not act from this place, from the new information. I chose to act from the new information. I said that resonates, because anytime something actually resonates, that's capital T truth, which means truth that is unchangeable, truth of the highest energy that is unchangeable. So it resonated, and I was like, not in my gut, because people are like, oh, my gut. No, your gut is too low. It's not your gut, it's your heart center, okay? And it would resonate, and I would go, I feel that truth. And I adopted that thing and implemented it. Boom, 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 and do what I could. And also, when we are processing through that open vessel of new information, when that new information comes in, we will start responding to life from that new information. That's the shift. That's where it happens. So my new information of, you are whole and perfect and divine and beautiful and deserve to be treated with love, respect, and kindness and honor. When I'm coming from that place, that resonates out into the world. That is the energy that I'm sending out, and that's what I'm coming back to me. So it's important to know that no healing work is ever in vain. Ever. Okay? Any little step of your journey is filling your worthiness cup. We have this worthiness cup, okay? This is not literally standing here, but it's a cup that's above I put it over my heart center. That's our worthiness cup. When we came here, this thing was full and overflowing. We knew nothing other than our unconditional love. That's all we knew. We knew our divine perfection. No judgment, no nothing. As we grew, the ego started to form. We took in messages from the outside world. What happened is the bottom of the worthiness cup fell off, okay? And our self-worth started to drain out. And because we believe the outside world took away our worth, we believe that we had to get it from the outside world. So what did we do? We started people pleasing. doing anything that we possibly could. We hustled for approval. That's the word I was looking for earlier when I was saying whoring for approval, but you can use whoring too, whatever you're comfortable with. That's when we started hustling for approval. That's when we started doing anything we can to get love, acceptance, and approval from the outside world. But what happens is that comes in the top of the worthiness cup and flies out the bottom. It doesn't stick. It is unsustainable because guess what? It's not the cure. It's not the cure. It's like putting water in your oil in your car and expecting it to run. It's not the cure. It's not the fix. So we're thinking, oh, I got to get these people to like me. I got to wear this mask. I have to be intellectual girl. I have to be smart girl. I have to be sporty spice. I got to be easygoing. One of my masks was easygoing girl. Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, nothing but, yeah, whatever. Do whatever you want. Oh, yeah. Easygoing girl was one of my masks. See, that was one of the ways that I hustled for approval. Didn't know it at the time. I thought it was just my personality. It was because I made it into such, all right? But when we start to take off these masks, we start to return to this unconditional, I'm sorry, let me back up. So when we stop trying to get it from out here and we start to give it to self, okay? Love, approval, acceptance, all the tenets of self-love. Boop! The bottom pops up on that worthiness cup and it fills up. Now we're walking around with a full worthiness cup. So we're not dying to have the relationship. We're not dying to have the friendship. We're not dying to have the career. We're not dying. We still have desires. We still have wants. I still wanted to be in a monogamous relationship. I didn't know I wanted to be married again at the time. But I was like, I love love. I'm a Libra. Libras love love. Libras love romance. Libras love relationships. And I don't subscribe much to horoscopes. I'm just saying that as kind of half funny, half not. But I do. I love relationships. I like cuddling. I like the whole thing, right? But it wasn't my source anymore. Oh, yes. Are the 3 agreements or the 4 agreements? Do you mean the 4 agreements? I think you mean the 4 agreements. But yes, 4 agreements, another amazing book. I read that thing like 20 years ago, and I read it in 45 minutes, changed my life. Changed my freaking life. Simple, tiny little book, you guys. It is not big. All right? It's not big. I think I read it in 45 minutes. Changed my life. It's fascinating. Anyway, when you start to give that stuff to yourself, your worthiness cup fills, and anything that comes in becomes a cherry on top. No longer is it your source where you're going to hang on to them no matter what they do to you because you want their love. You see what I'm saying? No longer are they your source. They're the cherry on top of you loving you. This is why you often hear people say, get happy first. They're saying get happy in your life first before you have a relationship. I agree with get happy first, but I'm going to add get worthy first. Get valuable first. Take it in, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. Don't be afraid to be alone. And no, time is not running out. I don't care if your biological clock is ticking. I don't care if you want to have kids. I don't care if you're 80. Your clock is not running out. Okay? Bring it in. Take the time to do the necessary work so that you can reset that foundation that you are showing up to relationships in life. So the screen isn't showing me the title, but I think it said something like, what your narcissistic relationship / pattern is calling you to do. What it's calling you to do is to just recognize that your outer world is reflecting your inner world. And yeah, you may attract another narcissist because they're out there. They may cross your path. You may have one in your life you don't want to get rid of, but I'm going to tell you something that's really important. When you clean up that stuff inside of you and you know you so well, you don't fall for the tricks. In my 20s, I fell for the tricks because I didn't know myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't value myself. I didn't know who I was. So when people told me I was something, I was like, I am? You know? I remember one time someone called me controlling. I'm the least controlling person. And I was like, I am? Oh my God, I'm controlling. You know, then I started, now if someone calls me that, I'm like, okay, whatever, because I know better. We fall for this crap before we heal our worthiness cup. So one of the things that's going to happen, or our shame and unworthiness, one of the things that happens is you will stop falling for it. You won't get as hurt by your narcissist. You'll be like, oh, okay, there's that. Because you unequivocally know whatever baloney they're saying is not true. The second thing that's going to happen, the second they start their crap, you're going to walk away. Yes. Andrea, yep. The second you're going to do is when they start their crap, you're going to walk away. You'll be like, I mean, literally, you might have to close it down. You might have to hang up, whatever, but you're just not going to stay in it as long as you used to. Because there's that part of us that wants to convince this person. A narcissist, you guys, bottom line, is just an unhealed individual. Our unhealing went into people pleasing. Their unhealing went into narcissism. Okay? It's hard to be around them because they're abusive, right? But they're just doing to us what we're doing to us. Okay? But when we stop doing that to us, when we put up that, there's something that happens here. If we are consistent, if the narcissist values you, they may start to heal. But it's going to be baby steps if they're a true narcissist. I made a video, you know what, where was it? Actually, I think it was, I think it was an Instagram Live when I was hiking one day. And I was talking about how I tamed a narcissist in that. And I said, I had some reference to Game of Thrones in there because I'm a total huge Game of Throner. We watched it again just recently because my youngest got old enough so she could watch it. But anyway, I was making a reference to Game of Thrones, and I was saying that the person, thank you, Andrea, yes, Andrea just said, I need to get your next book. Yes, or your book next. Okay. It's about to be published. I literally got the email today for the next copy for me to look through the formatting to make sure everything is right. It's coming soon, you guys. It is the one that's on my banner. I did put it on my banner, and I forgot to have my graphic artist person put coming soon on it, so it's not there yet. I probably should change that. But anyway, it is coming soon, and it's going to be a lot of what you guys are hearing today, but it's going to be in book format so that you can highlight and write things down and study it and pick it up randomly and go, brrr, I need that. You guys ever do that with a book? I have a bookshelf and I'm like, brrr, the first highlighted thing I see, I'm like, that's my message for today. Anyway, thank you. Yes, stay tuned. By the way, if you guys want to be sure not to miss when it is published, you can go to my website, kristenbrown.org, and if you scroll down just a tad on the homepage, I have a box where you can just enter your email address. That just puts you on the list, so when I send out the email that said, it's here, you guys will get notified. If you don't want to stay on the list, you can unsubscribe. I understand how that goes. Our emails are just full of crap, right? They're just, we get so much. But feel free to do that, to subscribe, and then you can unsubscribe after you get the book, or you can stay subscribed. I really don't email very often. I just kind of remind people of, post like videos and recent media stuff that I had done, so if people had missed it, then they can click on the link. That's pretty much what I do, or offer something here and there. But I'm not a huge emailer. But so now I've lost my train of thought again, because that's what I do on these lives. So what I'm trying to say is that you are going to start to see your narcissistic person later. And like I said, I tamed the narcissistic, the Game of Thrones reference. Is that what I said was that in Game of Thrones, there's the person with the biggest army wins. Okay? The person with the biggest army wins. And like, well, they got an army of 20,000. We only have 3,000. It's kind of like 300 if you guys saw that movie with Leonidas, I think his name was. He had an army of 300 against, I don't remember who the foe was, but they had this like 100,000 people. Anyway, the ones with the biggest army wins. And I said, your army is God. My army was God. My army is my healing. My army was the self-love tenets. which, by the way, I didn't know at the time. This is all in hindsight when I went back and I said, what did I do? What did I do to heal myself? And I went, oh my God, and I listed it. First of all, I said, what changed? That was the first thing I said to myself, because I noticed I was showing up differently in the world. So I said, what changed? What changed was, I said, oh my God, my worthiness. I no longer feel like I'm not worthy. And then I said, what did you do? How'd you do this? And that's when I discovered it. Anyway, so I digress. So the point is that your army is your spirituality. Your army is healing your shame and unworthiness. Because once you put that in place, okay, you will respond and react differently to the narcissists in your life, or even future ones that may come in, or even just future toxic people. Okay? You will respond differently. So when I kept showing up repeatedly a certain way to the narcissist, what I noticed was this person baby stepped their way to change. It was frustrating as hell, as you can imagine. It takes a lot of patience. But they baby stepped their way to change, to where it got really workable. Every once in a while they still kind of did their shenanigans, but it wasn't like it was. Okay? And I'm not saying to do this work for your narcissist. And I'm not saying to do this work for anybody. If you don't do it for you, it's not going to stick. Yes, we are blessed to be on earth with a lot of people. We're blessed to have communities. We're blessed to have surroundings. But the healing journey is solo. It's about us and us. And, you know, back to the way beginning of this talk, when I was talking about my tsunami and how I was feeling, and I was just a nervous wreck and scared to death and all those things, I remember calling people during the day, and I was sitting and I was talking to them. And as I was talking to them and hearing them, I remember I would feel better while I was on the phone with them, but the second I hung up, not 30 seconds later, it all came crashing back down on me again. And I had this awareness that nobody can fix this for me. I have to fix this for me. And then I was like, how? And then I remembered God, the superpower of the universe. I wasn't alone, and you're not alone. So we do have each other. We have our mighty companions, and that's A Course in Miracles terms, by the way, Andrea. And our elbows are linked, and we're doing this together, all right? And it's still a solo journey. So what you are being called to do, my beloved soul siblings, is to love yourself, to respect yourself, to heal your inner world so that you can have a better experience in your outer world. Because we attract. The energy within is what attracts our experiences to us. And I will tell you, as a person on the other side of this, who is in my perimeter now blows my fucking mind. I have the most amazing perimeter, when all I attracted back in the day was people who wanted to use and abuse me, or who didn't value me, even friendships. But all that changed. All those people left, and nature abhors a vacuum. The universe abhors a vacuum. So what is removed, the universe is going to bring in something into that space. And that space is going to be filled from the level of energy that we're on. So when we attracted all those other people down here from shame and unworthiness type vibe energy, and again, that's on a spectrum because we're all different, all right? Whatever we attracted in from that vibe, you heal your self-worth, your vibe is going to improve. And you're going to start to attract people from that vibe. Tried and true and tested. The people I have surrounding me in my environment right now, it's literally mind-blowing. And like I just had a friend the other day, I called, he lives in Wisconsin, and I called him yesterday or the other day because I was going through a struggle, and I was like, I just need a vent. Do you know what he said to me? You can call me anytime. I don't care if it's 4 a.m. Anytime, I will pick up for you. I didn't have that type of loyalty in my life, love in my life. And by the way, I was listening to a podcast recently where the person said, If you have one, literally 4 a.m. friend, you're winning. Even if it's just one, I probably have a few, but if I have one, and that you can call, that you just need to talk to in the middle of the night, you're winning. And like 2 days later, my friend says this to me, and I'm like, this is what winning looks like, you guys. I do the work I do because I am a compassionate woman, because I am a lover and a giver. I have learned not to be over, right? So I stopped compromising my sacred self. I stopped doing things at the expense of my well-being. But I started this journey as a coach, teacher, mentor, author, speaker, all the things, writer, because I care. And if one person has an epiphany and they're like, or I inspire one person, then I feel like I've done my job. I feel like I am contributing to the collective of humanity. And I believe that all of you who have come through this room, who are still on here now, or have listened to other videos, whatever, I believe that you're doing the same thing in your life. Because we are the lovers and the givers, the nurturers, the earth angels. We are the people that care deeply. And in order to help those around us, we got to put our oxygen mask on first. Remember, they say that in the airplane. If you have anybody that you want to care for, put your mask on first, because you can't help them if you're passed out, right? And one of the reasons why I did this work was because I had 3 innocent faces looking at me going, what are we going to do, mommy? And I was like, I can't put them through something like this again. I can't do it. I need to fix something. I need to change something that's going on inside of me. And I don't know what that is, but I set course to do it, and I did it. And guess what? I didn't become selfish, like we're all afraid of. You don't become selfish. You become a shinier version of who you authentically are. Shinier meaning you're more willing to embrace your traits, your gifts. When someone gives me a compliment now, here's what's interesting. Because a lot of times when we're feeling unworthy, people compliment us, we're like, oh, yeah. When they compliment us now, because I love myself so much, it's like, it's such a neutral feeling. I don't get that spike of, because I love me. And because I don't get that spike, it's not my drug. I'm not out there hustling for approval to get that hit, because I'm giving it to me. I am filling that void. I filled the void. What was making me hustle for approval. And you can do this too, you guys. I thank you for being here. So many of you passed through this room today, and I appreciate you being here, and I hope you guys got a lot from this, and I will be saving the recorded version. You're going to have that cheesy thumbnail that they take a picture of you at first, because I don't make my thumbnails ahead of time. When you do it on your phone, you can't upload the thumbnail ahead of time. Maybe you can, but I will, upload a thumbnail shortly. But if you're just joining us recently, I invite you to go back and listen from the beginning. If this end part appealed to you and you liked it and inspired you and make you kind of give you a little little energy, then listen to it from the beginning. Because there's so much information here, so much information. And I believe in you guys. I'm no different than you. I am no different than you. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, but you had this or you did that. I was a hot mess in the world, accepting the unacceptable over and over and over again, trying to find some chapstick from people. Finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and asked God for help. And the answers came, and I showed up and I did the work. So I invite you guys to do the work too. I'm a little bit, this is one addiction I can't get rid of. I'm in Arizona. It's dry here. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all the love and comments that you sent up through the chat. Oh, I was going to check. I'm sorry. Let me check real quick because Hummingbird was sending me some chatty chats. Let's see. Let me go back. I don't drink alcohol and I refuse to gossip. Things that narc here don't like. They love their alcohol, their binding element with other narcs here, and I could, yes. Yes. You keep doing you, boo. I know you might feel like you're like this outsider in your environment. You be as solo as you need to be to maintain your integrity and who you are and true to yourself, and not feed into that shenanigans. It sounds like you're not. So I'm for other people. I don't drink either. I'm not a drinker either. I'm not dissing anybody that's a drinker. All right, not dissing anybody that drinks. I think healthy consumption of alcohol is okay. However, and the gossip and those things like you're talking about, no, that doesn't work for you. That is not your energy. That is not your vibe. And you are going to stand apart from them. And whether they diss you or not, I don't know what's happening over there. Don't mind you. You just do you. You take care of you. You're on track. You know what you're doing. You just need validation that you're doing the right thing. I hear you. We talk on these live streams. I see you. I as a reminder, know what you know. You're using discernment. You're going in. You're getting live chat. Battery or something. But thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for listening. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on notifications of my videos, and I will answer them in my Dear KB playlist. Okay, so I will address that specific question only, and I will answer my Dear KB playlist. Just be sure it's in my wheelhouse of expertise, because you know there's an arena that I know a lot about, and there's a lot of stuff in the world that I don't know anything about, or I know very little about, so I can't really speak on from a level of expertise. But I will be happy to answer your question. All you gotta do is write it in there, and I keep a queue, and then I answer them in according to how they show up in the queue, in the order that they are received. And sometimes the queue is busy, and sometimes it's not busy. Welcome to live chat. Remember, oh, all right, it came back, you guys. That was weird. I think they're okay. I was one of the flying monkeys did report to the FemNarc one time that I saw a particular woman, and she asked me how the FemNarc convinced. Yeah, this is why we forgive ourselves. So what? You were a flying monkey for a minute, and you caught it, and you said, don't want to do that again. This is how we heal. This is why we give ourselves grace on the journey. Do you think sometimes I've not joined intoxicated myself? I recenter, I reset, and I go at it again the next day. Oh, you guys, I just saw the time. I got to go because I got a coaching client very soon. So I just want to say thank you. I love you. Please leave your comments below. Don't forget to like and maybe share with someone that you think could benefit from this. All right, guys.